On a chilly December evening in 1985, as the holiday lights sparkled across Midtown Manhattan, an audacious and bloody power play unfolded on the city's bustling streets. Under the glow of festive decorations, Paul Castellano, the notorious head of the Gambino crime family, stepped out of his limousine in front of the upscale Sparks Steakhouse. Suddenly, gunshots pierced the air, leaving the powerful mob boss dead on the pavement. Who could have orchestrated such a brazen assassination in the heart of New York City? This shocking event not only marked the violent end of an era for organized crime, but also revealed the sinister ambitions and ruthless tactics within the mafia's inner circles. The assassination of Paul Castellano was more than just a murder. It was a statement of power, a prelude to a dark and deadly shift in the criminal underworld. When Carlo Gambino, the then reigning patriarch of the Gambino crime family, passed away in October 1976, the mantle of leadership was unexpectedly bestowed upon Paul Castellano. Unlike the anticipated succession, which typically followed a hierarchy where the underboss would step into the boss's shoes, Castellano's appointment sidestepped Agnello Della Croce, the presumed heir. This surprising decision was not merely a personal snub. It represented a stark shift in the philosophy and trajectory of the Gambino family's future operations. His leadership style was notably different from his predecessors. He rarely involved himself directly in the family's lower-level operations, preferring to manage the organization as a corporate enterprise. Castellano's focus on white-collar business operations significantly expanded the Gambino family's influence. However, this shift also created a disconnect between him and some of the family's rank-and-file members, who saw him as out of touch with the traditional ways of the mafia. This pivot towards white-collar crime was revolutionary, but controversial. Castellano's approach created significant unease among the more traditionalist members of the Gambino family, who felt that their new leader was neglecting the established methods that had enriched them. The most vocal opposition came from Agnello Della Croce's faction within the family. Della Croce, who continued to hold considerable influence as an underboss, was a staunch adherent to the old ways of the mafia, and his faction was crucial in maintaining the loyalty of the street-level operatives who felt increasingly alienated by Castellano's leadership. Amidst this brewing discontent, John Gotti emerged as a significant figure. A protege of Della Croce, Gotti was charismatic and ambitious, with a deep-rooted belief in the mafia's traditional codes of conduct, which he felt Castellano was abandoning. As Castellano immersed himself in white-collar ventures, Gotti's reputation soared within the Della Croce faction through his successful exploits on the streets, embodying the charisma and fearlessness that many in the family felt were absent in their boss. The division within the Gambino family deepened as Castellano became increasingly isolated, surrounding himself with business-minded associates and limiting interaction with the family's capo regimes and soldiers, whom he viewed as unrefined and reckless. His preference for holding meetings at his mansion on Staten Island, rather than traditional social clubs frequented by his underlings, symbolized his detachment from the day-to-day operations of traditional mafia activities. Adding a significant layer to the internal conflicts within the Gambino family, Paul Castellano was notably against drug trafficking, a stance that put him at odds with other influential members of the organization, including John Gotti. Castellano's opposition to the narcotics trade was pragmatic. He believed that drug trafficking attracted too much federal scrutiny, threatening the family's more discreet and lucrative operations. This ideological clash came to a head when Gene Gotti, John Gotti's brother, was caught through an FBI wiretap involved in substantial drug trafficking. Castellano's insistence on avoiding drug-related business and his moves to potentially punish those involved, including members of the Gotti faction, exacerbated the tension. This situation underscored the growing divide between Castellano's corporate-style leadership and the more traditional, risk-tolerant members of the family, paving the way for the eventual coup led by John Gotti. December 16, 1985, marked one of the most audacious and bold movements in the history of organized crime in the United States, the assassination of Paul Castellano outside Sparks Steakhouse in Midtown Manhattan. This hit not only eliminated the then boss of the Gambino crime family, but also set a precedent for the violent upheaval that could occur at the very top of America's criminal hierarchy. On that cold December evening, Paul Castellano was en route to a pre-Christmas meeting at the renowned Sparks Steakhouse, not knowing it would be his last. Accompanied by his underboss, Thomas Bilotti, Castellano was ostensibly meeting to discuss the family business. But John Gotti, an ambitious capo within the Gambino family, had other plans. Viewing Castellano's leadership style and strategic choices as detrimental to the family's core values and income streams, Gotti was determined to take the helm and steer the family back to its traditional organized crime activities. Gotti's plot was meticulous and brazen. Utilizing the element of surprise to his advantage, he orchestrated a setup involving several gunmen positioned strategically around the restaurant, which was a popular dining spot for New York's elite, including top mobsters. The assailants were dressed in nondescript winter coats and Russian fur hats, blending in with the holiday crowd to avoid attracting prior attention. As Castellano's Lincoln Town car pulled up in front of Sparks, the gunmen approached. Castellano and Bilotti barely had time to react before the shooters opened fire. The execution was swift and brutal. Within moments, both Castellano and Bilotti were fatally shot, their bodies slumped in and around the vehicle. The gunmen wasted no time, quickly dispersing into the city's chaos, their escape as meticulously planned as the assassination itself. Traditionally, mob hits were carried out away from the public eye, but the murder of Castellano was designed to send a clear message of power and fear. By killing a boss in such a bold and blatant manner, Gotti signaled a significant shift in the power dynamics within the Gambino family and the broader underworld. In the immediate wake of Castellano's murder, the Gambino crime family faced unprecedented turmoil. The audacious public execution in front of Sparks Steakhouse not only shocked law enforcement, but also sent ripples of fear and uncertainty through the mafia's ranks. Castellano's death created a power vacuum, triggering a brutal struggle for control within the family. John Gotti, already a rising star within the Gambino hierarchy, swiftly moved to consolidate power. He presented himself as a more traditional and accessible leader compared to the reclusive Castellano. Gotti's charm, coupled with his willingness to flaunt the traditional mafia code of secrecy, won him support among many Gambino soldiers. By January 1986, Gotti had solidified his position as the new boss of the Gambino family, marking the beginning of what would be dubbed the Gotti era. Other New York mafia families watched warily, uncertain of the implications for the broader criminal landscape. The hit intensified FBI scrutiny of the mafia, leading to a surge in arrests and convictions throughout the late 1980s and early 1990s. Gotti's reign, however, was marked by both opulence and hubris. Yet this same visibility contributed to his downfall. In 1992, Gotti was convicted on multiple charges, thanks to the testimony of his underboss, Sammy the Bull Gravano, who turned state's witness. Gotti died in prison at the age of 61 due to throat cancer.